policemen, 2
for making
firemen.
the shelter.
And
I
really,
would also like to
we're gonna
thank
just
Willie Jolly for
really have
vast
all
sum of money
push to try to
supported
get
in
money applicants for those jobs.
Okay,
Nice.
let's talk about that, you can talk about
We
it.
can start talking about that.
Durham,
And,
North Carolina. You're
you know,
hearing
it's
this
just,
valuable
we
information.
have,
Let's go support
we
it.
probably have lists for that.
Please support this station.
They
with
do,
your
but
charitable
you
giving.
can't get
Thank
people
you in
to,
advance
I mean, it
for
isn't just
sharing
African
your
Americans,
trust.
but you can't get
This
people
is
past the
Beth
physicals,
Fulbright,
or the drug test, or
signing off until
the
our next
psychological
time,
profile.
to help you
It's not just
troubleshooter
because they're
your
African
drive
Americans.
Yeah.
on the financial
That's a
freedom.
concept.
Thank you for tuning in. Join us next
New
time.
housing incentive program, these are all kind of mundane stuff, actually.
Yeah.
Son,
exciting.
your mom and I would like to talk to you. I'm not an idiot. Your eyes are all
I don't have any
bloodshot. I'm
revelations
begging you,
or
son,
New
please stop smoking
projects
pot.
or
But the
anything.
budget settled?
Budget settled.
Please stop doing drugs
I
and
wouldn't
do
mind
what
just
they tell
mentioning
you.
that and saying
Okay, Mom and
we did
Dad.
get those. We
I'm gonna
got
do
4
it.
of the 6 public safety positions.
And we can walk into that.
Yeah, and you know,
So go to drug-free.
to me, that was a big deal.
A message from the
Steve and
partnership
Tom,
at
they didn't think we should have
drugfree.org
done that.
and partnership
I
for
think that was
drug-free
a-
Iowa.
We're not gonna like anything you like.
I'm
No, it's
working
true.
2 jobs, and my husband works too. My kids go to school with your kids. I'm 1 out of every
Which is
6
black and
Americans,
racist.
and my family is struggling with hunger.
Recommend
I
for
believe
counts
in
right,
this country,
counts right.
but it's hard to believe so many
As
Americans
citizens,
have to
because
choose
people
between
that
paying
maybe
bills
do
and
the job,
feeding
they don't like
families.
part of it.
Yeah.
Visit
Yeah, I could
feedingamerica.org and
I
find
could
your
talk
local
about
food
that
bank.
if you want to talk
Every
about
dollar you
the
donate helps
announcement.
provide 7 meals for
You know,
those
there's,
struggling with hunger.
there will be 4
Together,
seats
we're
will be
feeding
up for
America.
election in November, mayors and 3 council seats. So,
Talk about that, okay,
Yeah.
just mention about your retirement. Can you might voice on?
I think I'm starting to get a cold, and I just got it this morning. I'm just a little raw and a little runny, and
Hard to get rid of.
just started to get it. Didn't have it yesterday. Fell over the woods yesterday afternoon.
3, 2, 1.
Welcome to the Mayor's Update. I'm William Kay, today's moderator. You're listening to KBBG 88.1 FM, Waterloo. And I'm pleased to introduce Waterloo's Mayor, the Honorable Buck Clark. Welcome, Mr. Mayor.
William, it's always great to be here. Thank you.
And we all have heard now of your announcement that you are not going to seek re-election.
Well, I don't know if everybody's heard, but yes, that was public last week, 2 weeks ago now, and yes, I'm not going to seek, who was it, Lyndon Johnson, I think, sat behind the president's desk and made the bold statement that I will not seek, nor will I accept my party's nomination for the president of the United States. But anyway.
Well, just a
I
comment.
digress.
Just a comment on that. Lyndon Johnson had problems far worse than you do.
Yes, he did, yeah. But he also said, Lyndon Johnson was the one that made a quote. He was trying to tackle some particularly difficult issue, and I don't know which one it was, and somebody asked him a question, and his response was, I could be worse, I could be a mayor. You know, or my problems could be worse, I could be a mayor, or something to that effect.
Well, as I recall, when George W. Bush visited, didn't he tell Tim Hurley he should fix the potholes?
yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think that was necessary. I think that was a standard line he used when he visited cities, but anyway, I'm not gonna seek re-election, Bill, and, you know, I've been just incredibly blessed. This city, Waterloo, has been very, very good to me. It gave me, for the past 35 years, all but about 5 of them, I have worked in one way or the other for the city. And in those 5 years, I worked in the city as a small business owner. So I just felt that I owed the Waterloo something, and the city's been very good to me, and I have been blessed to have interviewed for this job on 3 different occasions, and have the people have hired me on 3 different occasions to be the mayor. And it's a very humbling experience.
Well, as I recall, weren't you a 3rd Ward councilman?
I was 3rd Ward councilman, yes.
That was 1 or 2 terms?
That was just 1 term, yeah. That was 2002, 3, 4, and 5. Yeah.
Yes. Was there any, because I'm trying to reflect now, any major disasters? Then we had some major snowstorms, but we had a flood, didn't you, while you were mayor?
You know, we had the 2010 flood. That was the first year, and it wasn't comparable at all to 2008. But we did have a lot of issues. Yeah, we had certain parts of town that had a lot of basement issues and a lot of street flooding. So, it was in the big scheme of things relatively minor. But it was a flood, yes.
Yeah, and it does take resources. That's when
Yeah.
Sans Souci finally, they decided to buy out Sans Souci, as I recall.
Well, I think 2008 was Sans Souci, Bill. Bill. That was the year that it took us a long time to get that done, but, yeah, anyway, we did.
But that is it always brings up a problem of infrastructure. When you
Yeah.
have floods like that, it shows you where your weak points are.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does, that's for sure.
Yeah, I was just thinking that in any, infrastructure is a problem.
Yeah.
And of course, we're in a period now where, of course, one of the councilmen said we should be in an austerity mode. But things like the Park Avenue Bridge, and maybe some of the other bridges too, these are things that would cause us, now Intercog actually does some studies and so forth on this for the city as to what you do. Any ideas coming from that?
Well, yeah, they all carry a large price tag, William, but, you know, I'll expand on the bridges just a little bit. I mean, we've talked on this show before, and certainly I've been in the news a lot about our footing drain removal program. That goes back to way before I was ever elected, that was going to become an issue at some point. And I used that when I was asked the first time I ran, and every time I ran for mayor, you know, what was the biggest issue facing the city of Waterloo? My answer was the same one, infrastructure was my answer, that we got huge issues. We have finally started to address our footing drain issues, getting that fresh water out of our sanitary lines. When we finally get that done, over a period of years, people will see an enormous difference in the amount of basement backups that we have. EPA was kind of driving that bus, that forced us to take a step, but anyway, we are doing that. And the bridges are another thing. The 11th Street Bridge and the Park Avenue Bridge were built relatively close to each other back in whenever. I should know this, but I don't. But they're old, and they are deteriorating.
Yeah, the Park Avenue Bridge was built in 1938.
Okay.
It was rehabilitated in 1984. You
Yeah.
remember we had some problems where
Yeah.
we reduced the lanes and so forth.
Yeah. But I don't want anybody to get the impression that they're not safe, because they are. And if they are ever deemed safe, I'm quite sure the city will close them. But at this point, they're not safe, they're just deteriorating. They are deteriorating below the water. The scouring of that concrete and everything is just deteriorating, and all you have to do is drive over either one of them, and you can see that the decking is falling apart, and they're just deteriorating. Those bridges are, just to replace the bridge, are between a $7 and $8 million ticket to do a bridge. That's a large chunk of change. That's our entire CIP bonding budget for 1 year. So how we tackle that going forward is going to be an issue. I won't have to deal with it, thankfully, but somebody's going to have to in the very near future. I would say certainly within the next 5 or 7 years, both of those bridges are going to have to be addressed.
So the next mayoral term, or
Well,
first or second term.
Mayoral terms are 2 years, so it depends on how
Oh,
long
yes,
the
that's
next
right.
mayor-
As you mentioned, I don't know why they're 2 years. But
Yeah,
that's right.
I don't either, but other than you just get the joy of running every 2 years, and I'm saying that very facetiously.
Yeah, no.
But they're huge issues, and they're important issues, and you know, there's been suggestions about the Park Avenue Bridge, whether we should take traffic off of that altogether and make that a pedestrian bridge, a bicycle bridge, kind of a mall area. And, you know, I think that there's some merit to that idea. Again, somebody else will decide that, but I think there's some merit to that idea.
Is there possibilities to get state and federal funding?
Yeah, we can get state funding. We've been offered funding, as a matter of fact. William, the last couple of cycles, we've asked for bridge money for the Park Avenue Bridge and have gotten awarded $1 million. We had an opportunity last year to accept $1 million grant from the state, but $1 million is only $1 million, and you're talking about an $8 million project. We still have to come up with $7 million. So there are some funding opportunities, but they're woefully short of the entire amount.
Well, the big success was the 18th Street Bridge. 'Cause
Yeah.
I was,
Yeah.
that bridge was really in bad shape.
Man, was that in bad shape. That was in bad shape, and there was a lot of discussion, and you were around when we were having all of that discussion, whether that was the right thing to do at that time to replace that bridge. We have 6 bridges that cross the river, you know, and do we really need 6 bridges? And I'm not sure we do.
Now, Waterloo has a lot of 4-lane roads through town. I mean, 5th, 6th, basically 1st, 2nd, not 2nd, but Bark and Fourth Street's the only one that really is just two lane.
Yeah.
And of course, that's also used as pedestrian because there's a lot of walking traffic down to that area.
There's, Vanderwall and Associates, our planners from Madison, Wisconsin, that we've used for a long time, are encouraging us to look at specifically Park Avenue, to skinny that down and put it on a road diet, and to make Park Avenue a bicycle connection from the east to the west side, and for folks to get around in the downtown area to use Park Avenue. We studied that a bit last year. Didn't pull the trigger on that. Again, everything we do is funding related to it, so we didn't get that done. But Park Avenue, particularly being a 4-lane street, as you said, and basically it doesn't go very far. It goes from Washington from Washington Park to Lincoln Park, east and west, and through the downtown, but it doesn't connect to anywhere. So there is a lot of merit to looking at Park Avenue in total and the Park Avenue Bridge and doing something other than what they are today.
Well, interesting, yeah, you've got the Elks Club on one side,
Yeah.
and the other side has the Center for the Arts and the Pavilion, the amphitheater, and so forth. So there is kind of a cultural area, particularly on what I say the south side, if you
Yeah.
call it the east side of the river. A lot of activity be down there, and probably more and more. You've got Young Arena, which is
Sportsplex?
the Sportsplex is all in that area.
The amphitheater, I mean, there's a ton of stuff down there, on both sides of the river. It's over a block to 4th Street when you're on the east side of the river, but there is a lot of stuff, yeah.
Yeah, so it could be kind of tied into a cultural activity center.
Yes, it could.
Because like you say, there's a lot of things going on there. You
Yeah.
even have docks in that area for
Yeah,
boats to.
yeah, and the plan is, within the next 7 years, to have a boat dock down there, not just those little docking stations, but actually a landing kind of a thing with some kind of a business that would sell gas and rent boats and paddle boats and canoes and so forth. That's all part of the TechWorks project, and there's just a lot on the drawing board for that area.
Well, I did complain to Paul Hudding that those docks didn't have a parking meter on them.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
Yeah.
then, and talking about, highways, though, Cedar Falls has been debating about these. Now, there's going to be a time when Waterloo is going to take over part of University Avenue too, isn't it?
Well, you're behind time, sure, William. You're not listening to the news.
Actually, I
recently.
do. It's been delayed a year, but I thought that you'd
Yeah.
reveal all that.
No, the DOT has withdrawn their transfer of jurisdiction offer to Waterloo. Actually, it wasn't an offer. They told us that they were going to transfer jurisdiction. I think the DOT is just like a lot of other federal agencies. They're finding themselves in a bit of a money crunch. So they have withdrawn that. So the Waterloo portion of the University Avenue is going to stay under the jurisdiction of the Department of Transportation for the short-term foreseeable future. I would say it will be at least 2 years before the DOT is interested in taking that project on. So we're actually a little relieved with that. We weren't necessarily looking forward to taking over maintenance of that street. And our portion is not as in bad a shape
I was going to
as Cedar
say,
Falls
it's in
is.
a lot better shape than
Yeah.
Cedar Falls.
Yeah.
A couple of things, I know the DOT had to, give Cedar Falls $20 million. The number kind of fluctuated a little bit here and there, but it was expensive to turn it over to the city because they had to basically guarantee it could be put back into some kind of reasonable order.
Mhm.
So I think they did run out of money. I think the newspaper article, the Courier, said that.
Yeah.
But it also gives us an opportunity to see if Cedar Falls softens their attitude about roundabouts.
Yeah, well, you know what, it does, really, because, it's obviously apparent that Cedar Falls is gonna go forward with their design to include a lot of roundabouts in that, in their design. So, it will give Waterloo an opportunity to kind of take a look at that and see how it works, and if that design wants to be carried forth over in Waterloo or not.
Well, let's just say it's Cedar Falls is our road testing facility.
There you go. Yeah.
That's amazing. And there was another thing about Cedar Falls that I kind of wondered about here. There was some talk about them passing on street light costs to.
Yes, there was. God bless them for talking about that. We're not going to go there right now. William. That would be a tough situation, I believe, to try to get our citizens to pay for a street light. If you have a street light in front of you, that you're gonna have to pay for that. I mean, you do in a roundabout way already, but to specifically pay for that light is, I don't think we're gonna be entering into that conversation anytime soon.
That's a difficult one too, because if I'm on a block and that light happens to be right in front of my house.
Yeah.
What are the other people on the street gonna do?
Yeah, I just think it's I read that article with a big smile on my face, thinking, ooh, I'm glad that's them and not us.
Yeah.
That's, we're not gonna go
And we should remind people too, we oftentimes see blinking lights or lights that are out, street lights, and what do we do about that?
there. Well, and it's an ongoing, constant problem. And right now, as you know, we have a department head meeting every single Monday morning. Sandy Grieco, who is in charge of our sign and traffic department, ends every Monday morning department head meeting with a plea to all of us that if we should see a street light out or a sign down, to make sure that you notify her department. And I don't unfortunately know the number off the top of my head. You can call my office, but we would direct you to the sign and traffic department, who is Sandy, at the end of the winter, we always have a lot of signs that have been knocked down. You know, some of them are snowplow drivers, some get skidded into, whatever, so we have a lot of signs down. And we have a lot of streetlights out, there's no doubt about it, but we don't have a patrol person out there, streetlight patrol, checking on those. So we rely an awful lot on our citizens, if they have a street light out, or if they see a street light out, to note the location and to call the sign and traffic department and report that. Some of them are ours, some of them belong to the DOT. We will make, not DOT, to Mid-America.
Mhm.
So we will make sure that they get fixed.
But we pay for them whether they're working or
We
not.
we do pay for them.
I don't think people realize that, there's no meter on there.
Nope.
So if it's not working, you're still paying a
That's
certain amount
correct.
of money for that.
That's correct, we do pay for that, and I don't necessarily know how to fix that. It's inequitable, there's no doubt about that, but we do pay for them, whether they're working or not. So it behooves us to report them if they're not working.
Wouldn't it be nice to have like a 411 number that you could call?
Yeah.
That, not
Yeah.
emergency, but just that you could
A
remember.
street light reporting number.
Yeah.
No, it's-
The other thing that kind of Sandy's involved with too is, what about like dead squirrels, dead raccoons, things that you see that hit, throw, kill, so to speak? What about that?
We'll pick them up. It's something else they have to call. That's an animal control issue,
Mhm.
but we do pick up dead animals all the way from deer to chipmunks, I guess. If there's a dead animal in your yard or in the street or whatever, if you report it, we will come out and pick it up and dispose of it.
I thought that's what the crows did for a living.
Well, the crows do for a living, yeah, I like that. They certainly help, but they're a little slow at it. You know, they're not timely in getting rid of them.
Right, they are, and it better be someplace where they don't have to keep flying
Yeah.
away from traffic.
Well, and then, when they eat, then they have to do what nature calls them to do, and usually that's on your car. And,
And we know what that's like in the spring.
Yeah.
Just to another subject, and we talk about downtown, its viability, because there's been a lot of redevelopment downtown. Not only the Sportsplex and the Expo Center and the, what is that, where the co-op that you have down there? And
Well, there's the amphitheater, the public market.
there's just a lot of things
stuff.
going down there. There's a trend now, and JSA is partly this, to providing a lot of places where people can live. They're not the only ones, there's other developments down in the neighborhood too. So we're really encouraging a lot of urban living.
Yes.
How is that going?
It's going incredibly well, William, and what's surprising to me are the demographics of the people that are renting those. They're primarily there for rent, and the most recent example is the old Plaza Hotel, which is on Sycamore Street, right next to the National Cigar Store. And Jim being Jim Walsh of JSA, just finished that project. We did a tour of that a couple of weeks ago, and there are I think there's 8 apartments in that building. All but one are rented, and the one that isn't rented, I'm quite sure will be soon. It's actually the top, the line one. It's kind of the top floor. It's the largest one, has 2 bedrooms. But those are being rented by young and old and singles and couples alike. And they're just fun. you know, if you go into those and you look at them, they're just really, it's urban living, quintessential urban living, and Jim's doing a great job with that. And then just yesterday, Jim took me on a tour of that space above the CU restaurant on West 4th Street, or on East 4th Street. That very top floor of that was an old speakeasy at one time. It's got teak wood floors that are all still intact. It's got incredibly high ceilings with the old metal ceiling tile and so forth. That is going to be just an incredible living space when Jim gets through. That probably won't be done till close towards the end of this year, but Jim's doing a really good job at rehabbing those old buildings, and they are being rented or leased, most of them even before they're done, but certainly they don't stay empty very long.
Well, and it's a boon to establishments that serve food
Yeah.
and entertainment.
Yeah.
But also, I think it's going to eventually start attracting merchants who.
Well, and that's the issue, and we just had that conversation yesterday as I was walking through with Jim. I mean, the housing is becoming an issue where we need retail downtown. We need somebody to put in a little convenience store and to do little boutique shops. We don't have the storefronts available that Cedar Falls has, you know, when they're Main Street, they have that great winding brick street that they have, but they have shop after shop after shop after shop. We don't have the storefronts available like they do, but the people living downtown, I believe, at some point very soon are going to demand convenience store type things where they can go get milk and bread and eggs and bacon, et cetera, without having to get in their car and go do it.
It was only several decades ago when we had Sears down there, Penny's.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, at Black's, I mean, there's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
a tremendous amount of shopping. At one time, people liked to live in the cities because they would be able to do their shopping there, their entertainment there, they would walk to work. People don't want to get in their car and have to go grocery
Right.
shopping if they live in an urban environment.
And I think that's changing, William. I think it's nationally, around the country, it's changing to go back to a move away from the suburban malls and shopping centers back to the urban living. I mean, in the larger cities, it's very much a reality, and I think it's going to start happening. It is starting to happen in cities like Waterloo. There's a lot of folks that live downtown Waterloo.
Well, and I think many people don't realize this, because I've seen a number of them too on tours, and a small apartment might be 800 square feet. There's some that are 1,200 square feet, and they're just almost house size in
Yeah.
some cases.
Yeah, in some cases, and the case with Jim, I think that his top floor is 1,200 square feet with 2 bedrooms. And he only wants, I think the rent on that's $900. It's less than $1,000 for that size of an apartment, which is, in reality and comparatively speaking, is a real bargain if you want to rent. And his smaller apartments, I think, are $650, $750, something like that. So if you like that style, and a lot of people, more and more people are leaning to that lifestyle, there's some real bargains in Waterloo.
Well, it'd be nice if it was a renovation of the use of, say, the Elks Club.
Yeah.
Of course, some of these places that are kind of on the fringe now,
Yeah.
because they used to have to belong to them to go there, and now they're more open to the public.
Well, I think that the Elks Club is going to be forced in some way to open up or expand that club to be used by more than just their members, I believe. And then what a grand old building that is. Holy mackerel, that's a great building.
That it is, and of course, a lot of lunch and so forth is open, I think, to the public.
Yeah, yeah.
And of
Well,
course-
maybe, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm sure it is.
Okay.
Or you can certainly take guests, if
Yeah.
you remember.
Yeah.
The other thing was that I see there's some incentive, like $1,000. This is for people who are building multiplex apartments.
Well, are you talking about the program that we just talked about, that just passed, council just passed? Yes, but, as that was explained at the council meeting, we have used for ages a state program called Enterprise Zone Credits. The Enterprise Zone Credits are going away as they have been known, and I won't profess that I am completely knowledgeable and up to speed about what this $1,000 was that got passed. Noel Anderson, our planning director, is very on top of that, and it will be a city incentive given to those developers that are building multiple family housing outside of our CURA zones. The CURA right now is Consolidated Urban Revitalization Area. If you're building in a CURA zone, you get those incentives automatically. If you live outside of them, you don't. This money will help that and will relieve that lost incentive that has been given by the state through the enterprise zone, and it's complicated.
Yeah, but that would be like over where Tunis Raceway used to
Yeah.
be. He would be outside of the area.
That's correct, that's correct. And he is one of those that is, was driving this initiative, because he kind of got caught in the middle. All of his units aren't built yet, and he got enterprise zone credits for those that are done, and it helped him do the project. And now that the enterprise zone credit program from the state has ended, he's kind of got caught in the middle of a project with some funding issues.
Well, $1,000 doesn't sound like a lot, but if you have 58 units like he
That's
has,
correct.
that's $58,000.
That's correct, that's correct. And it leverages more money, so it is significant.
Yeah, well, and we are getting an awful lot of new housing in Waterloo, are we not?
Oh, heavens, yes. Yeah, that's one of my success stories that at the end of this year, when I start tabulating what I think that I have contributed, certainly that's gonna be one of them. Is when I took office, I think we were building, I don't know, something like 20 or 40 new units a year, and we did well over 200 last year, and we're gonna do well over that this year, so housing is growing.
Well, and of course, that is one of the problems we have now, like with infrastructure problems, we have storms. It takes money to run the city, and the more it costs individual homeowners, and basically renters pay taxes too through their landlord.
Through their landlords, absolutely.
We need to have a place that's attractive to people to live, because they can afford it.
Yeah.
You know, we have fees that go up with utilities, for example, and utility costs go up. We now have sewer costs, which are going to go up.
They are going to go up, that's true.
and-
Well, it's got to be read one more time, but I think, I'm fairly confident that's going to pass.
I don't think there's really much choice in that. It's,
Well, no, there isn't.
so I mean, that's gonna pass, and that's gonna be a certain amount. Because, when you look at your quarterly bill for water, sewer, now it's stormwater and everything, it's really grown quite a bit since I've owned a home,
Mhm.
since '84. And now I begin to get, well, you look at that thing twice.
Mhm. Yeah, and people are always conscious of the property taxes in the city of Waterloo being as high as they are. And I would be the first to admit that I wish that they weren't as high as they are. But we are doing an internal study right now at the city. It's going to be kind of interesting, actually, William, you'd be interested in this. While we have one of the highest levy rates in the city, or in the state of the city, we also have some of the lowest property valuations in the state. So when you have a higher tax rate on a lower property value, we're trying to figure out, comparatively speaking, when you're talking about West Des Moines and some of those that have relatively low levy rates, but their property values are so incredibly high, I'm not so sure that Waterloo is in that bad a shape, comparatively speaking.
Yeah.
You see where I'm going with that? If you've got an incredibly expensive piece of property and you're paying lower taxes, how does that compare with a lesser piece of property valuation-wise and a higher levy rate? I'm not sure. We're trying to figure that out.
So you have a levy rate that seems high, but you've got a $400,000 home that's valued at $250,000.
Yeah.
You're
Right.
certainly, it kind of makes up the difference.
Right.
And it's kind of an apple and orange comparison. So
It
when you
is.
look at Cedar Falls, we don't really know necessarily what the equation
Yeah.
would actually work out to be.
That is exactly right. And, it's unfair, and we try to point it out when possible, that we are so often compared to Cedar Falls in so many ways. And in fact, we're not Cedar Falls. We're just different. Cedar Falls is not an industrial town, they're a college town. And there's just so many differences, and it's really, I often wish, or have often wished in these past 5.5 years now, that we didn't be attached to the hip with Cedar Falls, because we get compared all the time.
Well, they use a lot of our services, people don't realize
They
that.
certainly do use a lot of our
Now the question is,
services.
you getting to pay for it.
Yeah, they certainly do.
Okay, well, we're kind of running out of time, but maybe just a comment on our public safety, our fire and police with the budget. What's the outcome?
Well, you know, I was adamant that I was going to try to get some of those public safety positions reinstated that got taken out of the budget last year. And I lobbied very hard, our council, to understand the need for public safety in Waterloo. And we were able, last year, the budget took out 6 positions. I was able to get 4 of those positions reinstated this year. And I'm very proud of that. I think that was something that needed to get done.
And I kind of agree with you, and I'm running out of time, so.
Okay.
We don't have any more time, so I've been talking to Mayor Buck Clark, and thank you so much, Mayor, for being here and spending time with us. I just love talking to you. It's been, this has been the Mayor's Update. I'm William Kay, and you've been listening to KBG 88.1 FM Waterloo. And a little comment here, thank you for listening to all you out there in the audience, and be sure to take an active interest in what's going on in your city. You can watch the meetings, they're available on YouTube or Public Access TV, or keep informed by reading your local newspaper. If you have concerns or questions, be sure to contact your council representative or the appropriate city department. Information can be found at www.ci.waterloo.ia.us or search for City of Waterloo, Iowa on your Google search. We are a participatory government, so please evaluate the issues, discuss them with your friends and family, make your concerns known. It's your right, it's your privilege, and your duty. And a final note, we have underwriters that support this public radio station. Be sure to thank them for their support. And good day.
Thanks, William.